Admit it, we've all had the fantasy, if only briefly, escape your current life and start over. No responsibilities, no romantic entanglements, no debts. All of it, perhaps, while chilling on a beach. Tonight, the story of one man who not only had this fantasy, but allegedly went for it. Prosecutors say Aubrey Lee Price, a self-described evangelical businessman, faked his own death, leaving behind a trail of victims from whom he stole millions. He's not the first person to try this, but now the jig is up. The Aubrey Lee Price, who shuffled out of court today with shackles and shaggy hair, was a far cry from this guy, the slick Bible-quoting bank director who was riding high just a few years ago until he allegedly faked his own death and vanished. This is the last time anybody saw Price alive on this surveillance video, not long after he wrote this long, rambling suicide note saying he would die and be buried in shame and regret. So why did he engineer this elaborate hoax? Federal investigators say he had 40 million reasons.
He's a thief and he's a liar.
Wendy Cross is one of roughly 115 investors who lost a combined $40 million to Price. This story starts in 2009 when Price, a self-described evangelical Christian, began raising money from investors.
He obviously was very fraudulent and deceptive, and he used the Christian faith and his relationship with God as kind of a front to all this.
Justin Zagalia was a business partner who says he had no idea that Price was both losing money in the market and allegedly stealing it from a bank he took over after infusing it with investor funds.
Fraud, this would be a huge fraud.
Prosecutors say Price stole, misappropriated, and embezzled millions of dollars, much of it directly into his own pockets.
And you had no inkling that this was going on?
Absolutely none.
In 2012, the bank was closed down. The money was gone, including the $300,000 Wendy Cross put in.
Not just my money, but it was my dreams and my future and my freedom. Gone.
Before they could arrest him, though, Price disappeared, sending acquaintances this long, rambling suicide note saying, "It is the pain which I have caused that makes life too difficult to exist. Waking up in my world has no appeal whatsoever." The letter was riddled with spelling errors and bristling with Bible citations, including, "Better is a little with righteousness than great income with injustice." Just a month after that suicide note, however, Price turned up on this surveillance tape released by the FBI at the airport in Key West, Florida, and then the ferry terminal.
Leads us to believe that there's a high likelihood that the suicide was fake.
He was planning this exit for a very long time, and he's a very, very smart individual. It's too bad that it was used for such evil.
A year ago, a judge declared Price to be legally dead, but the FBI didn't buy it, issuing a $20,000 reward and searching as far away as Venezuela, where Price owned property. Meanwhile, his investors were left hoping Price would somehow be found with their money.
I hope that they find him, and I hope that he suffers, and I hope that he sees some of this path of financial carnage that he has left behind.
Aubrey Lee Price is by far not the first person to attempt this sort of disappearing act. In fact, just weeks after Price vanished, Raymond Roth took his son John to this beach in New York.
He took his shirt off, took his shoes off even.
The father then told the son to sound the alarm, saying his dad went for a swim and then went missing.
I called my stepmom. I told her I don't know where he is.
Dad went into the water and never came back out.
John Roth called 911. A massive search and rescue effort ensued.
We're all crying on the beach that, maybe he had a heart attack, maybe, the undertow.
But then his wife learned that Raymond had cleared out their bank accounts. Next, she discovered secret emails he'd sent his son indicating he was very much alive.
And I'm like, I can't believe it. He's alive. We have to call the authorities.
She did. Why did you fake Raymond? And shortly thereafter, Raymond was busted. He pled guilty to conspiracy and got a short jail term.
What were you running from?
Great, now is the time to apologize.
And then there's the case of Olivia Newton-John's former partner, a man named Patrick McDermott, who disappeared from a fishing charter boat in June of 2005. Private investigators allege McDermott did not drown, but staged his disappearance to get out of debt and say they found him alive and living in Mexico. There's also Michael Ward, who was removed as commander of the USS Pittsburgh after the Navy concluded he faked his own death to end an extramarital affair. He was relieved of his duties, but honorably discharged. And Sam Israel, sentenced to 22 years for defrauding investors out of $400 million. He drove his SUV to a bridge in New York, wrote the words "Suicide is painless" on the hood, and rode a scooter to an RV he had parked nearby. A month later, he turned himself in. Former NYPD detective Nick Casal says there is a reason most of these people get busted.
In the digital age, how hard is it to go underground?
For the amateur, it's all but impossible. First thing you have to ditch is your ATM cards, your credit cards, and your cell phone. You can't travel by air because you need identification. You can't rent a car. You can't renew your driver's license.
Which brings us back to our banker, Aubrey Lee Price. After 18 months of successfully avoiding authorities, he was busted in a routine traffic stop on Interstate 95 in Georgia on New Year's Eve. The reason for the stop? The tinted windows on his vehicle were too dark.
Is it surprising to you that after 18 months on the lam, he was brought down by a routine traffic stop?
The routine, you become comfortable and you become a little secure in your new identity, and you fail to perceive these types of dangers. This officer was smart enough to run him and then determined he was wanted and apprehended him.
He allegedly used fake names, which made the sheriff's deputies suspicious.
They were doing their job, what I require out of them, and they just looked beyond the ticket. This guy was wanted by the FBI, and now he's going to be answering to the people that he's alleged and taking the money from.
Once under arrest, listen to what Price told the deputies.
He told them to sit down, he's going to make them famous. That's what he told them in the back.
That's the same line that Emilio Estevez used before killing people as Billy the Kid in the movie Young Guns 2.
I'll make you famous.
Today in court, one official told the judge that Price claimed he'd been homeless before his arrest, working as a migrant worker and accepting cash for odd jobs. He insisted his family didn't know he was alive and that he'd returned to Georgia to renew the tags on his truck. However, Price was not apparently homeless. After he was arrested, police in Ocala, Florida, raided the apartment he'd been renting and removed 225 marijuana plants from the guy who once marketed himself as a trustworthy, devout Christian.
This is a great, great way to start out the new year for us.
As for Wendy Cross, who lost all the money she'd been saving since age 22.
Him being caught gives you faith that, if you just, hold the faith and keep the faith, that good overcomes evil.
And if he is convicted, Price is looking at 30 years behind bars. And for more stories of elaborate attempts to pull the wool over people's eyes in all sorts of ways, be sure to catch The Big Lie on 2020 tomorrow night right here on ABC.